Welcome to Everything Auburn. My name is Carter, and I'm so glad that you're here joining us today. My co-host Dalton Odom is indisposed today. He wasn't here, so I am running solo on the host duties. That's where I get another member of the Auburn family joining us today. It is Damon Davis. You might know him better as the Director of Sports Performance for Auburn basketball. You also might know him better as Coach D, or maybe even better as the Viking that sits on the end of the bench during basketball games. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Just glad you're
here.
Glad you're here. It's basketball, man. It's been your life for quite the while. You've been here for 15 years, right? This is your 15th season. We've done some research on you, by the way.
Yeah, I've been with BP since he got here.
So,
and then I was here previous to Bruce getting here, so I was fortunate to kind of get a on-the-job interview with him, and he liked me well enough to keep me around.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you did it. You did, and you certainly dressed the part. I'm glad that if there's any question whether or not where you work, I can think I can deduce it today.
Great job about being a strength coach, as you can wear shorts and T-shirts to work every day. There's not much dressing up in this profession, so
this is your business professional.
And I'm actually happy we don't wear suits on the bench anymore, as is probably the rest of the staff.
So I remember back when, a little behind the scenes thing. I used to work for athletics, did a lot with basketball, and gotten to witness many of the cool things that you do that are very often behind the scenes and not seen public.
Right.
If you could, you used to get, I assume you still do this. I assume this is okay for public consumption. I did videos on it, so I'm sure it's okay to talk about it. You guys used to have like some really cool like tech stuff. It's not just like lift these weights. It's a lot more involved than I think the layperson would imagine.
Sure.
What are some of those like processes that you go through? I think a lot of people would be really interested what goes into it.
Yeah, I think like a lot of areas in sports, technology has increased in the past 10 to 15 years, and it's obviously becoming more integrated with what we do, from, monitoring player load through short, we wear an accelerometer in the shorts for games and practices, so you're getting lots of different metrics on accelerations, decelerations, how many jumps they do, kind of total load, if you will, over the course of a practice or a game. A lot of that's really for almost return to play stuff. So like for Janai right now, coming back off, as he comes back off an injury, we could look back at, what a typical practice load for him is. Cause when the first day back, you don't want to put him at full load. So you can say, okay, he's been at 600, in a typical practice over, an hour and a half. We can say we want to do half of that. So we can monitor some of that. We also use dual force plates. We do a lot of jump scanning with our guys. So we're looking at right, left asymmetries between legs. We're kind of tracking performance through those jump tests that we're doing on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Trying to think what else.
Because I remember that was really cool is because there's all those when we come in and I have a film degree, so I don't know what any of this stuff is. I know how to lift weights. Like that's up and down. That's where my knowledge starts and ends, right? But you had these like the jump plate. You can measure like their force, and you set all these cool benchmarks at the beginning of the year is very individualistic. Yeah. And it's so much more technical than I probably was 10 years ago and probably will be in the next 5 years. And it's just so cool that it's so individualistic for every single athlete now. Yep. And I would imagine it behooves them as well and gives you more information. I think it's really interesting. It's really cool. On top of the fact that, like you were just talking, like players coming back from injury, I know you and Clark work together a lot. Clark, the athletic trainer for basketball. Yep. What's that relationship like? Obviously, you can't, I don't want to get in like specific injuries and athletes and stuff, but like of trying to get a player who really desperately wants to come back. Mm-hmm. You know how athletes are. The worst thing you can do is tell them you got to stop today. Right. Pull them out of practice. It's the worst. Yep. How do you kind of manage working with that? Because it's for their benefit, but it's so hard. But you have all this data that helps that, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, Clark, like myself, has been doing this a long time, and we've been working together for a long time as well. So, obviously he handles more of the rehab coming back from a possible surgery or an injury. And then there's going to be a little bit of overlap between when they're fully cleared for full activities in the weight room. So there's kind of this melding of, his area and my area. So we got to be able to communicate, and, he kind of lets me know maybe things to avoid or things to modify. Because I think the last thing, as you said, you want to do with an athlete is obviously give them complete rest, because at the end of the day, if a guy hurts his ankle, there's still a lot of different things you can train around that ankle.
That's true.
You got the other leg you can do some things that don't actually involve the ankle, like leg extensions or leg curls, so there's various exercises that you can still give them a training effect so they don't detrain during that time.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. That's a good strength coach term there.
Yeah,
detraining,
which is a lot of what we try and do with our in-season lifting, right? We're training twice a week, playing twice a week, so we're trying not to, we don't want to get weaker as the season goes on. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be able to build a lot of strength because you got the fatigue that happens from the games. But on some level, the lifting allows you to manage the fatigue, because I think ultimately the movement and the blood flow and the training of strength training, power training helps them recover on some level as well. So we work really hard throughout the summer period and the early fall, training 4 or 5 days a week. And then once you kind of get into the season, you taper that off a little bit, but we're still, we're reducing the volume that we do in the weight room, but the intensity still has to maintain a certain level so you don't get weaker.
Sure.
It's a long season.
Tell me about it. It's 30 some odd games. And it's wild.
November to hopefully April.
That's the goal, right?
Right, 100%.
So I did want to shift a little bit, though, because I think there's a couple interesting things I wanted to talk about. First off, what got you into, all right, so as a strength coach, right?
Yep.
Sports performance, right? How much choice is there in, so you've done basketball pretty much your whole career?
A good amount of it, yeah.
Like I said, we've done some research on you here.
Yep. Give it to me.
So some time with the Chicago Bulls.
Yep.
And then, all the way from Illinois.
Yeah, I'm from Illinois originally. Worked at
Illinois, Chicago Bulls. You've been here basketball has been a lot of your life.
Yep.
Basketball territory you grew up in. So has it always been basketball, or has that always been the goal you wanted to work with, or?
Not really. I love working with basketball, but so when I got into strength conditioning, I really just wanted to work with athletes. That was just my goal is, a lot of people.
Any way you can.
Yeah, just, I want to train athletes. So I wrestled in college. I wrestled at Northern Illinois, so I have a background of being a Division I athlete. That is what got me interested in strength conditioning, because without being bigger and stronger, I probably wouldn't have been able to compete at that level. So that's kind of where my interest in training began, even though I trained in high school. But obviously once I got exposed to, hey, there's guys in college that train sports and train teams, eventually I realized that's what I wanted to do. So intern with the Chicago Bulls back in the early 2000s.
That's pretty sweet.
2003 mainly. I was there with, the baby Bulls, Eddie Curry, Tyson Chandler, Jason Williams, Kirk Heinrich.
That's pretty sweet.
We weren't very good,
but it's still pretty cool though.
kind of the post Jordan era. But I really went there. To be honest, I went there not because they were the Chicago Bulls, even though I'm from Illinois and I grew up obviously watching Michael Jordan and the Bulls and their 6 championships. But I went there because of Al Vermeil, who is basically a legend in our field. He's now retired from the Bulls. I think Al's probably in his 80s now, but he's the only strength coach in professional sports to have championships from football. He won a championship with the 49ers back in the mid 80s, probably 84, I think. And then was with the White Sox and the Bulls for a while, and then trained the Bulls for 20 plus years. So I really went to the Bulls because of Al, not because they were the Bulls.
There.
So
it's a good resource though.
Yeah, no, he's he's really a true legend in our field. Just one of those guys that, like a lot of us in this field, there's always something to learn. You can always get better. The same thing we teach to our athletes, right? Like, the same thing that Coach Pearl preaches, like, no matter how good we're playing, we can always improve. We can always get better. So, Al was a big influence in my development and my career. And that's ultimately what led me into basketball. But I've actually trained, I was at the University of Iowa for about 5 years prior to coming to Auburn. I trained track and field, baseball, tennis, golf. When I got to Auburn, I was out of the Coliseum in 2008. I originally started training all the track and field, men and women's golf, men and women's tennis.
Wowzers.
And then did that for a couple of years. Then I transitioned to baseball for a couple of years, baseball, track and field, women's tennis. And then I started training basketball back in, I believe it was 2012. So
it's nice to at least have one focus.
I think what makes my philosophy really unique is the fact that I've had exposure with sports like track and field, which are sports where you're looking to peak at the right time of the year. I've been able to take some of that experience with those sports and take it into basketball.
Sure. Big part of that with basketball.
Because with track and field, the early meets, they're important, but it's really about being your best at SEC championships, regionals, and NCAAs. Yeah. So just like with our team, we want to be our best come March.
Yeah.
So I've taken, whereas if you're a younger strength coach and you say, I want to work with basketball, or I want to work with football, and you just ingrain yourself in that sport, I don't think you quite get the development and the exposure to different sports, different athletes, because I've really taken some of my knowledge of acceleration and speed training that I've learned through track and field and tried to apply it to basketball, or even a sport like tennis, which has a lot of lateral movement similar to basketball. So,
that makes sense.
You're finding a lot of similarities between, even a sport like golf, golf's about, transferring energy from the ground into the club, into the ball, which requires lateral force. So, basketball is one of those sports that you need to be good in all three planes of motion. You got to be good vertically. You got to be able to have, good acceleration linearly to, sprint down the court, obviously. And then you got to be able to move multi-directionally or laterally to play defense and stay in front of guys.
Not to mention the way that, BP likes to play, which it's it's an exhausting sport, but the aggression, especially on the defensive side, like these guys got to be ready.
100%.
And you've heard it. I think anybody who's an Auburn basketball fan has heard it, that BP, cares. If you can play defense, you'll play.
100%.
And being aggressive on defense is so exhausting. And to be able to play a 40-minute game and still be not as tired as the guy across from you, it's a lot of work that you have to put in, to put the players in, to be able to be their best.
Definitely.
Because, that's been BP's entire thing here, right? It's been a lot on your shoulders, which is, in the game, I'm not going to be as tired as you're going to be.
Well, and also playing 9 or 10 guys. So
that also helps.
Playing a bigger rotation definitely helps. It also helps on the side of what I do in the weight room, because if they play 38 minutes a game, getting something out of them between two games is a little more difficult than when they're playing 28 to 32 minutes.
True.
So, and I also think that people don't realize that, if you say, oh, he played 34 minutes versus 30 minutes, like, oh, it's only 4 minutes. But over the course of 30 games, 4 minutes adds up to multiple more games you've played in your legs than someone else hasn't. So I think the fact that we try and, play 9, 10 guys and, rotate in and out and wear teams down, also helps with our conditioning, because guys know they don't have to rest. Don't rest because you're going to get a breather. So you got someone coming off the bench who, and as you can see with our team, we're not going to drop off much when the bench comes in either.
That's true. It's very true.
So that's, working with BP now for 11 years. It's just become one of those things where I know what he's going to do at certain times of the year, and he knows what I'm trying to do at certain times of the year. And I think we've got I feel really comfortable with our system that we've created to develop
You've
guys.
been in it a long time,
Yeah.
here, and I imagine it gets very familiar, very comfortable, and you can.
Well, I
it
mean,
helps.
as you know, with SEC athletics or any Division I athletics, like, there's a lot of turnover. So, I mean, I think me and the guy at South Carolina probably got the longest tenure in the SEC, where there's a lot of guys who've only been in the SEC for 1-2 years, maybe. Because think about all the new coaching hires in the last 3-4 years. Yeah,
it's a lot of work, and it's a lot. I think there's some crazy things that happen working in athletics. The time is it's a labor of love.
It
for
is.
sure. But yeah, I know it is crazy because it is a lot of turnover. You never know, and the crazy thing about turnover is, it's like, you got to move.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and it's so interesting that you've been able to be here so long. Family's here, you've grown up. Like, this is like home.
This is home for sure. Yeah, my son was 1 when we moved here. He's a junior in high school, and
That's wild.
my daughter was born here. So yeah, it's definitely home now. And I'm fortunate. I'm blessed that to work under such great leadership that has allowed me to be part of the success and have stability for such a long time, because that's rarely the case in our profession. Sometimes every 4 or 5 years you're moving, looking for a new job, and and I'm a creature of habit.
Sure.
I don't like change. I like routine, and so it's definitely been a blessing for me.
Wonderful. I did want to see, as a strength coach, I would imagine you work out occasionally.
I do. Not as much as I did when I was 30, probably, or you change the emphasis a little bit as you get a little bit older.
A little bit. What does a strength coach's strength routine look like? Because you really got to be able to, show it to the guys if they need it.
Sometimes, yeah. I used to be able to do it a lot more. I could jump in and lift with the guys in previous years. I'm 48, so the amount of training days that I can tolerate and recover from has decreased. I probably, not switched, but transitioned to a little bit more what you consider, I guess, cardiovascular or more aerobic exercise stuff to make sure your heart is healthy and that, all areas of your body are functioning correctly. Probably more mobility work. But yeah, I still, I think maintaining strength even as you get older, is highly important. I actually work a couple of days a week with one of our former players, John Mengelt, who's 75 years old and still lifts weights.
Bring it on, man.
Yeah, he's a retired. His jersey's hanging in Neville Arena, so he's at 75 years old. He's still competing, basically. So I'm trying to be like him someday.
Think you're on your way.
I'd rather. You're doing well. I saw one of my colleagues in strength conditioning just had a surgery, and I texted him and just said, rest up. And he said, I'd rather wear out than rust out. So it just basically means like, I'd rather, wear things out than just be stagnant and, rust basically as you get older. So, I still train, just probably not as frequently.
Sure. I think it's cool. And then you just mentioned there that one thing that's really cool about working athletics is there aren't many people where you're currently at doing what you do. I mean, there's a handful here and there, but there's a lot of people around the country. So you get to go travel and you get to meet your colleagues and the people in the same position. You can get this really cool network of people in this kind of close-knit group. It's such a fun time to get to go. It's like visiting your friends during the travel. You get to go visit your friends.
It is.
Did want to ask, I'll put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
Don't want to out anybody, but if anybody comes to mind throughout, Auburn basketball fans, we got a pretty good memory of some players.
Yep. Anybody
comes to mind that is just really was surprisingly just ridiculous in the gym? That just maybe, because we've seen it all before. There's some guys go in there and just gym and then just they'll surprise you.
Yeah.
Biggest surprise? Anybody come to mind?
Oh, I've had some really, like KT Harrell was a really strong dude.
Yeah.
Like, probably one of the strongest dudes that I've worked with pound for pound. And just, to me, it's just about the guys that come in and do the things they're supposed to do even when they don't feel like doing it, because there's a lot of times where, you're going to be sore, you're going to be tired, whether that's in the off season or the in season from games. And, you're not always going to want to come in and do the things that I ask you to do. But, I believe that success leaves clues, right? And I think if you look at the guys that are still playing at a high level, you look at Walker Kessler or Jabari or Isaac or Chuma or Jared or Bryce, whether it be in the NBA or overseas, like those guys were usually my hardest workers.
Isaac's the one that I get to witness him. And the first time I saw him in the gym, I was,
yeah, he was
the
a
first
freak.
time I saw, I was like, oh, so that's the guy that everyone's been talking about. That makes sense.
Yeah, he was a freak.
Yeah,
but he also never rested on the fact that he was, even out of high school, he was pretty physically, put together. He had some really good physical qualities, but those are guys just come in and they do the work and they trust the process. And, there's days, they just don't got it, but they still find a way to, push through fatigue and work hard. And, that's what I try and preach that to our guys is that, I've seen those guys train. I know what their habits are. They're not missing lifts. Now they may not always, you may have to make some adjustments day to day, but they're going to get in and give you their best effort because ultimately they've got bigger goals. They've got goals to play at the next level, and it takes what it takes, right?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It's a lot of work. Just want to wrap things up here as we're getting, look at my watch here, close to time. Auburn Arena is such a strength.
100%, yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And it's one thing to see it on TV. It's another to see it in person. And you get to sit on the bench and witness it and see how it energizes the players. What's it been, especially over the course of your tenure here, it's gone from, let's be honest, not great.
Not very correct.
To probably one of the hardest tickets to score in the SEC.
Definitely. What's
it been like to watch and kind of experience and get to see it day in, day out and see what it does to the team and the guys?
I guess you kind of get used to it, but when you go to other places, we went to Texas and obviously they take their athletics pretty seriously too, and it's not the same. The jungle is the jungle. Our fans, the fact that they're out there camping out before games, or
I still can't believe kids are doing that now. That's wild. I never would have guessed that Auburn would be a place that people are out there days early, sitting in line, getting tents.
Me neither, but here we are.
Yeah, isn't it great?
I mean, I just, I love the fans' enthusiasm, and it's such an advantage over any place we play. How excited our guys get when there's a big dunk. The bench is jumping up and down, and I mean, we're around it so much that maybe you don't always appreciate it because it's normal, right? Like
it's your job. You do it every day.
Yeah, the craziness is just normal now. But the fact that we're going to have another game day here on Saturday versus Tennessee, and I think it's 5 years in a row.
Yeah, something like just about
that we've had college game day here.
Yeah, just about. I remember I got to work the first time game day came back.
Probably Kentucky, right?
It was Kentucky. It was 2019, I believe it was.
Yep.
Almost got kicked out because they did not like how aggressive I was being with my camera. But I remember it. Like I still got the like the beanie they give out that looks like the hoop, the net. Oh,
yeah,
it's sitting on my desk right now.
I love it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Just Coach Pearl's energy, just his competitiveness. From day one is, he's done such a great job of helping, just developing this program and building it tirelessly, and I think we all kind of take a piece from him because, he works as hard as the players, if not harder. He watches film all the time, and, it's just like sometimes I got to encourage him to take some time for himself and, hey, let's get down and get on the bike, and because he gets so locked into watching games and doing things. I'm like, Coach, you gotta give yourself a little bit of time for just for your health, and just it's a long season for him too. So,
I bet.
It's been a lot of fun to just be a part of. Like I said, it's 11. It's crazy. It's been 11 years that this is year 11 with Bruce. So
it is truly crazy. And then I know he just became the winningest coach at Auburn as well. It was just wild that that's already happened. And I don't know, it's been incredible to watch him. And I was very lucky to spend a little bit of time with you guys for a few years there, which was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Man, I miss it though. It is a lot of fun.
It is.
I've always loved basketball. I've always loved the way that team, the way BP has built the team, the staff, the way you guys all work. It's just a fun group to be around. And
we've been fortunate, just like keeping some of the players in the program. We've kept a lot of the same staff in the program. Guys have probably had opportunities to go other places, but the fact that we've got such continuity between, Coach Pruitt, Steven, Ian, Berg, we've had Ira. I mean, we've had very little turnover. So
across the board, it's probably one of the least. That staff has been more consistent than any other college staff that I've ever witnessed.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You don't really think about it. It's not very common that you see that, and I think there's a lot of that's like this place. A lot of it's BP. A lot of it's the jungle. It's just all of it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's why would you want to leave?
I don't want to. I left and came back. So.
I know you did.
Can't keep me away. Well, as we wrap up, I just want to say thank you. You do a thankless job, and a job that's behind the scenes that maybe not, but Auburn basketball would not be the same without you.
I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. I've had some, great players and guys that, ultimately just they give their best every day. And that's really all I can ask for is just guys that are willing to come in and just work through the process and come in every day ready to get better. And if you get a group of guys kind of all pulling in the same direction, I think you get what you're seeing right now. You see success and, brotherhood, and you see all these guys that they're having fun playing together and they love each other. And, it's special, but, I think when you're in it at this time of the year, you don't get a chance. You don't reflect on it right now because all you're worried about is what's next. Like we got Tennessee coming up this weekend, we got at LSU, and then we're on the road to Ole Miss. So
it's a grind.
There's no time to reflect right now. And then when the season gets over, we'll reflect on it, and then you get back to work.
What's the thing did you ever watch The Office?
Yep.
What's the thing Andy says if I wish there was a way to know when you're in the glory days? I wish there was a way to know the glory days when you're in them.
Yeah.
But, well, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate
you taking the time. Good luck the rest of the season. I'm sure you guys are going to keep having fun and doing well. But thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back again next month, hopefully with Dalton as well. We'll be back from injury. We'll be back again with another wonderful guest of our Auburn family. Visit our podcast hub, listen to some of our older episodes, see who else we've chatted with. And we'll see you again next time. My name is Carter. War Eagle. Get a War Eagle from you?
War Eagle.
Heck yeah.